1% of dudes rapping, they ain't nice as me. 98% ain't live the same type of life as me. The judge gave me life and then they sent me where the life is be. That level 4 with depth and vice, the type of stuff they like to see. Two choices, fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. I never been a mark, but damn, it's scary when that riot jump. I seen dudes cry, get punked, and some sexually brutalized. Knew a dude who lost his life and he was only doing 5 year-long racial fights when homie all you do is ride. Lonely days and nights up in a hole causing suicide. From the moment you arrive, you see the Mexican mafia, AB skinheads with big giant swastikas, pro-black philosophers, the BGF, the Kumi, and Muslims who will murk you from the nation to the Sunni. That MS was loony, quick to ride up on they rival. Even Christians went to church, hide knives up in a Bible. Political and tribal, the Crips and Damus, the Long Beach, the Hubs and the Dubs and the Grooves, the IE, the Bakersfield, the Dago Pyrus, the Hustlers quick to roll, the gangsters gon' move. Say what's cracking, YouTube? It's your boy 16 to life, and I'm back like I'm on a parole violation. Yard down! Now, for those of y'all that's new to my page, in 1994, I got arrested. I was eventually sentenced to 16 years plus life, and I served 24 years straight in the California prison system. Yeah, that's me gassing right there on that intro. And if you want to get that song, hit me up on my email at 16tolifemusic@gmail.com. Cash App, PayPal, or Zelle me $20, and you can purchase the digital download. I will shoot it to your email ASAP. Now let's hop right up into this video right here. So yeah, man, you see the topic. Will the blacks get revenge for Tory Lanez? And so yeah, I'm gonna answer that question today in my opinion, and I'm gonna break a few things down for you guys, and I'm gonna give you my opinion at the end of the video. So let's get right into it, man. First and foremost, let me say this. When there are so many different theories, a lot of misinformation coming out, it's hard to put your finger on what really happened to say what is gonna happen. Unless you was there, then you may have a clearer idea. But let me tell you guys, you know, I've done a lot of time, and I've been in prison where there were situations that happened right there in the prison that I was in. And it still would be a lot of rumors surrounding what actually happened, what went on, who was in the wrong, who did what first, so on and so forth. So it's just a whole lot of information. So to try to sit back in the free world and figure all that stuff out, it's just very, very hard. You know, let's start. First, there was a phone call made to a YouTube channel known as the Black Box. Now, this individual claimed to be in Tehachapi where this incident occurred. He himself, when he was asked what happened, he said, "I don't really know." You know, so that's starting right there. So if he's there in that prison and he doesn't know, it's extremely hard for a person who is not in that prison to know. Because when situations happen, you can best believe, especially when it's a racial situation, the information gets sent and disseminated from building to building, and building it gets passed out. But of course, you know, when you have a lot of messengers, sometimes the message gets twisted, sometimes it gets misheard, misinterpreted. So it's a whole lot going on there, right? So even he said he didn't know, right? So now let's move on to the Poetic Flaco theory. And Poetic Flaco is a uninformed square, to say the at least, right? This dude don't know what's going on. He loves to talk about worlds in which he has no idea about what's being said, about what's going on, and he goes on with this some type of, you know, just an unknown theory on whatever intelligence he believes he has. And sometimes you can apply street intelligence or book intelligence to a penitentiary situation, because it's definitely a different world and a different subculture. You know, when I first started doing my YouTube channel, a lot of times I would tell a prison story, and sometimes you would have dudes leave comments in the comment section, and they would be incensed at what happened, what occurred, and I would always say, hey man, you are trying to give me a logical street explanation or a logical street solution to a penitentiary problem, and it just doesn't work, right? And so Poetic Flaco's theory is basically that Tory Lanez was doing a whole lot for the black population in there. He was blessing people with a lot of contraband. Actually, Poetic Flaco spoke on a whole lot of things he shouldn't have even spoke on, right? To be honest, right? Things that could actually have the officials, prison administration, looking at Tory Lanez, right? And so Poetic Flaco basically said that he heard that the Mexicans was basically trying to get Tory Lanez out of the way because financially he was a problem. He was basically loading up the black car in there with just too much, right? And I believe that to a certain extent, right? Because when you have a lot of money, when you introduced into a new world like that, and especially when you're non-affiliate, any type of way sometimes you can get yourself in good with this certain collective. And this collective at this point in time being the black car, you at least try that, right? Because he knows that if he does that, then of course, due to his famous status, his publicity status, due to the things that he's doing in there, he's helping people out. People will tend to rally around him and see him as a cool dude, right? Because you have a lot of people in prison who don't have the small luxuries to make prison a little bit better. You know, you have some people in there who don't have simple food and stuff, you know, just to eat. And when you in there and they feed you at 6 o'clock in the morning, you have to go to breakfast in order to get your lunch. And your lunch is just a sack lunch, right? A couple of pieces of bread, a small piece of bologna, maybe an apple and a small cookie. Really something you should be literally giving a 7 or 8 year old, you know. And then so a lot of times I would see people eat their lunch by 10, 11 o'clock. Then you're fed around 5 o'clock, 5:36. So, you know, come around, man, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, you know, the average grown man is going to get hungry, especially if he's in there, he's trying to work out, you know. So bottom line, they don't feed you well. So the small things that Tory Lanez was trying to do in there financially, which may have been small things for him, actually probably definitely mean a lot to individuals who couldn't do them things for themselves or have their family do certain things for themselves. So that was definitely, you know, some kudos, and would potentially have people rally around him in certain situations, right? So then, you know, I was hearing the theory that due to the amount of times that he was stabbed, 14 times, they were saying that, you know, he had to be jumped because there's no way one person could have done that. Then I seen someone says he had 2 knives. And so, listen, a person can get stabbed in prison by one person 14 times with 1 knife. You know, people who were saying, oh, well, you know, the guards are around. There are a lot of times where the guards are doing other things. They're, you know, they're paying attention to something else, or maybe they're up there doing something else like on their phone. You know, they're not paying attention. I've seen fights break out on the yard, you know, mini melees break out, you know, 3-on-3s, 4-on-4s, and the guards don't see a thing. They might be over there fighting for 30 seconds, a minute, you know, 4 or 5 people, and then eventually they break up and go their separate ways, and the guards never saw nothing. So there's always time to put in work on an individual, right? You don't necessarily need 2 people to stab one person a bunch of times, right? Let me just say this. In that phone call, it also came out that Tory Lanez was in a building and on a tier where there wasn't too many blacks. In my opinion, he was slipping 100%. You know, I always tried to be around people who were in my collective, whether they was the homies or whether they was people of my race. You know, some people may look at that as being scary, but let me tell you something. When you don't respect your environment, when you are in a dangerous environment, you definitely can be hurt, seriously injured, or killed. You know, that's like almost being in the Vietnam War and not respecting the fact that people are shooting at you. That's almost like, you know, being at the zoo and the bear, the door to the bear cage is open, and going in there not respecting the fact that them bears will tear you from limb to limb. So when you're in a situation like prison, regardless of whatever yard you're on, from the nicest yard to the yard with the most highest security, especially a place that has a lot of spontaneous violence, and a place where you have, imagine being in a place where you have a lot of people in there and none of them are in there for doing their best of thinking. You have people in there with a lot of erroneous thought patterns. You have people in there who are selfish, inconsiderate, rude, bullies, disrespectful, and at any given moment, two different personalities could collide, and that can lead to chaos. You definitely want to be around people who are going to rally with you and have your back. And so even just being in that situation, if it is like they said it was, he definitely was slipping 100%. I heard a lot of different theories, right? And the one that sounded the most plausible to me is what I'm saying is the visiting room theory, which is basically that Tory Lanez at some point in time, I guess, was in the visiting room on a visit, and the individual Santino Casillo, he was also out there, and it's being said that Tory Lanez made a disrespectful comment about his wife or something along those lines. In the event that is true, then Tory Lanez was 1,000% in the wrong. That is one thing that is off limits, extremely disrespectful, and will get your head took off. You never disrespect somebody else's family out there in the visiting room. Now that is very important. And let me also say this. I hear different people saying different things about Santino's alleged affiliation, right? And people are talking about, hey, Chia, well, what about, the rules where one race is not supposed to put their hands on another race and so on and so forth. If Tory did that, he was supposed to go to the blacks and have the blacks get down there and get at him and all that type of stuff, man. When you disrespect or you do something that is perceived as disrespect towards somebody's family in the visiting room, it becomes personal, man. And all that, politics and talk to this dude and all that old type of stuff, all that stuff goes out the window, right? Let's also factor into the equation that more likely than not, this definitely was a PC yard. So all those, rules of engagement and all that old type of stuff, man, you won't find as much discipline and structure on those yards as you will on a quote unquote general population main line, right? A lot of times you might have rogue behavior in those situations. You might have an individual go rogue, or you might have 2 or 3 of his partners who they hang with go rogue. But anytime you disrespect somebody's family member in the visiting room, it's personal, right? So once again, let me reiterate, if that is the case, and let's just say for the sake of this discussion and this video that is the case, then I don't believe there is going to be any retaliation for a couple of reasons, right? Even though, of course, during that phone call, you had the brother who called the black box say, hey man, basically he said, when we gonna press play, basically talking about when we come off lockdown, we gonna kick it off and we gonna get cracking, even though he had no idea what this occurrence was over, right? And I can definitely guarantee you, while those individuals who are on that specific yard are locked down in their cell, there's words being passed around, there's already communication going on, and they've already probably gotten at least to the bottom of what occurred and why it actually occurred. And so once again, if the visiting theory is true, I believe that it's not going to be anything done for a lot of reasons, right? First and foremost, if that is the case, regardless of what that dude was charged with, right? Because regardless of what he was charged with, he was there on the yard, and he was there, and now he's gone. So you can't get him. You can't do anything to him anyway, right? So I'm hearing people say he was non-affiliated. I'm people hearing say he was affiliated. For the sake of this conversation, let's just go with the theory that he was affiliated. His homies are going to say something along the lines of, hey man, when talking to a black dude or whoever the representative is, hey man, Tory was wrong, man. He got at that dude. He disrespected that dude's family. He tried to talk to that man's woman. He disrespected her over the tier or whatever it was, right? If they're talking to anybody who knows anything about prison politics, and despite that being the SNY yard or whatever type of yard it is, you are still going to have some individuals who know prison protocol, prison policy. There is no way around Tory, if that is the case, once again, him disrespecting that man's family, right? And so, of course, you have individuals who are going to support they're homies when they're right or they're wrong. And I'm talking about the homies of Santino in this situation right here. Now, in a situation where he is clearly by prison protocol right, of course his homies are going to have his back 100%. He's gone. They're going to put all the blame on him, but they're also going to basically verbally back his play. Like, hey man, he handled his business. He did what he had to do. But that was a one-on-one situation. Now, let's look at this on the flip side. Regardless of what Tory Lanez may have or may have not done, you know, being financially benevolent to the brothers on that yard, spreading his financial wealth around, looking out for people. If he was wrong and he actually did disrespect that man's wife, then that is a severe violation. You are definitely going to have some individuals on the black side who will see no point in going to war, one, over an individual who is no longer on the yard, and two, and a close to who was clear-cut wrong in his violations of disrespecting another person's family member. Once again, if that was the case. So in my opinion, if that was the case, he will definitely not have support of the whole entire black car, because let's keep it honest. You have a lot of individuals on that SNY yard because they're trying to avoid violence. They're trying to go home. They're trying to miss the political BS that's sometime on the main line. Now, it could be very well possible you may have an individual or a couple of individuals who was real close to Tory and they just feel like, man, forget that. We not letting this go. And whenever they're locked down, they come out and they take off, right? And that, of course, will kick off a riot more than likely, because then all the blacks that's out, and I'll take a quote from one of the better MCs I've ever heard, all the blacks that's out will be forced to fight or flee. I refuse to die a chump. But in my opinion, do I believe a majority of the black population will come out if, once again, that is the reason why this sticking occurred, and just take flight on whoever they believe this individual was associated with? I just don't believe that's going to happen. I know it's going to be some dudes out there who may be mad at me. And once again, you know, those are my beliefs, and I just don't believe it's going to happen, right? Do I believe that there is a possibility or even a chance that this could spread to other prisons and spread and make its way to the streets? Hell no, man. Let's keep it 100, man. I think it's safe to say that in the minds of most people who's heard this story and have even a smidgen of an understanding of how things in prison go, they simply don't care, because they feel that this was a SNY yard, a no good yard, a PC yard, so on and so forth, man. And I know lately a lot of people have been hitting me up, man, asking me what's going on with the big fella. The big fella has disappeared, so on and so forth, man, talking about Damian Porter. I talked to him a couple of days ago. He's free, he's doing well, and he'll be back soon. So since he's not here right now, I don't necessarily think he'll mind if I end this video the way he used to end his video, with "Stay free, people." Then you won't have to deal with that stuff. You already know who it is. It's your boy 16 to Life. Resume normal program.